What's up, y'all? Alvin here, and today I'm going to answer the top 10 questions about fly fishing. All right, so number one, what's the difference between fly fishing and any other type of fishing? And that is the fact that with every other type of fishing, you are throwing a weighted lure or a weight or something that has some mass to it, and you're tossing that out, and a weightless line is getting dragged along behind it. Pretty much the opposite with the fly rod. You're casting a weightless lure with a weighted line, and the fly or lure is getting dragged along for the ride. So that's the basic difference between fly fishing or fly casting and every other type of fishing. Number two, hear this one all the time. Is fly fishing just for trout? No. Number three, so what fish can you catch with a fly rod? Well, you can pretty much catch anything that swims. People think of fly fishing, they think of trout, they think of small mountain streams, they think of tiny little flies floating on top of the water, but that's just not the case. You can pretty much imitate anything that swims or crawls on the bottom with a fly of some sort, and you can catch fish with it. That's everything from small trout and panfish to large saltwater fish like sailfish, marlin, giant trevally. You can catch all kinds of fish with the fly rod. Okay, so number four, what is a fly? Now, there's a lot of debate in the world of fly fishing what constitutes a fly. Usually, people are gonna say it's a hook with some type of fur or feathers attached to it. But there are all kinds of interpretations on what makes a fly. There are some flies that look much more like a lure, like a swim bait or a gold spoon. So what is a fly? Anything that you can cast on a fly rod is what I consider a fly, and a lot of other people do as well. Okay, so is fly fishing harder than regular fishing? And sort of a yes and no. Learning to cast a fly rod is a little bit more difficult initially, but I think if you could cast a bait casting rod, like an open face reel that you have to use your thumb, that's at least as hard as casting a fly rod. Casting a fly rod is going to take a little bit more practice initially, but once you get used to it, I'm going to say it's not any harder than a lot of other types of fishing. I am not great at most sports, but I am really good at fly fishing. So if I can do it, you can do it. Okay, so are there any advantages to fly fishing? And yes, there are. Number one being that thing where you're trying to throw a small trout fly. So a small weightless fly is almost impossible to deliver with any other type of fishing tackle. Since we're not concerned about the weight of our fly, then we really can throw any size fly. So the smallest up to some pretty large flies. There's other advantages, when you're casting along a shoreline and you're fishing, say, the first 10 feet of the shoreline, you can cast out, fish 10 feet, pick it up, boom, hit the next spot. Whereas with conventional rod, you have to reel it all the way back in, judge your distance, throw it back out. The fly rod, say you're casting to a tailing redfish or a bonefish, sight casting to a fish, you make your cast, you're 3 feet to the left or 3 feet to the right. A lot of times you can immediately pick it up, adjust your cast, fire it back out there the exact same distance, 3 feet to the left, 3 feet to the right, versus a casting rod or a spinning rod where you have to reel it all the way back in, judge the distance, make a cast 3 feet to the left, 3 feet to the right. So there are some definite advantages to the fly rod. Now, the next question is, are there any disadvantages? And yes, there are disadvantages. The flip side of being able to throw a small weightless fly is that it is actually harder the larger and more wind resistant your fly is. So you have to go up in line size, a heavier rod to deliver a larger fly. And at some point it's sort of, it's just kind of hard to deliver a big giant fly sometimes. The other thing is, if you're trying to get down really deep, or if you're trying to cover a lot of water, it's going to be tougher with a fly rod. You can put on a really heavily weighted lure or just a big chunk of lead. You can get your lure, your fly, your bait, whatever, down as deep as you need to get it. With a fly rod, we do have sinking fly lines, but it's definitely going to be much more difficult to get a fly down really deep. And if you're just trying to cover as much water as possible, just blind casting, that's definitely going to be easier with a spinning or a casting rod, because you can just cast at a mile, reel it in, cast at a mile, reel it in, and so on and so forth. With a fly rod, definitely going to be a little bit tougher to cover a lot of water. Okay, so fly rods, why are they so long? That's a question I hear a lot. Partly has to do with the fact that you are holding your line in the air. So it's going to be a little bit easier to hold that fly line in the air than it would with a shorter rod. So on a shorter rod, the fly line is getting stuck on more stuff. And also there's a lot of fishing techniques that actually involve using the length of the fly rod to mend the line or hold line off water, or different delivery techniques or line manipulation techniques that are going to be easier with the longer rod. There are plenty of short fly rods, 5.5 and 6 foot fly rods. Those are sort of specialty rods made for, fishing in really tight situations, small creeks with lots of brush, stuff like that. There are even much longer fly rods, 12, 14 foot fly rods. But your typical fly rod is going to be 8.5 to 9 feet versus, your typical casting rod, which is going to be probably 6 to 7 feet long. So that's the reason fly rods are longer, for the cast and some of the fishing techniques that we do with the fly rod. Now, this is another one I get a lot, is why do fly anglers wave the line around in the air so much? We call that false casting, and that is a way to deliver the fly. One of the things that's different about the fly cast is that you actually have to make 2 complete casts, so a back cast and a forward cast, before you can deliver your fly. So with a conventional rod, you just make 1 forward cast and boom, there's your cast. With the fly cast, you actually have to throw all your line behind you before you can throw it in front of you. So that's why you see people waving it around in the air. Now, you do want to keep that to a minimum, and that's a whole nother topic when it comes to casting and the minimum amount of false cast to get the job done. But basically, that's why you see fly anglers waving the line around in the air. All right, so another big question, number 10, if you haven't been keeping track. Number 10 is fly fishing expensive? I know fly fishing has a reputation for being expensive, and to a certain extent that is sort of true. Fly fishing is still a much smaller sport than fishing with conventional tackle, so just the nature of less rods being made is going to drive the price up. So there are just millions and millions of conventional tackle made every year, and that drives the price down. The other thing is, most of your high-end fly rods are going to be USA made. There are plenty of non-USA made fly rods that are perfectly adequate, and the prices are going to be a lot better on those outfits. So there's most of the major fly rod manufacturers now are making entry-level outfits that are way better than the entry-level outfit that I bought, 30 years ago. So the same $150 that I spent 30 years ago to get a decent rod, definitely not the best rod. For that price now, you get a much better rod than you would have got 20 or 30 years ago. So prices have come down some, which is shocking because prices of everything else have gone up. But the prices for the fly rods, the entry-level rods, are much better than they used to be. Now, whether fly fishing in general is expensive or not, it's kind of hard to say. So you could buy a really nice fly rod, reel, everything you need to fish with, or you could buy a bass boat. And the bass boat is going to cost significantly more than all your fly tackle. And the prices of some of the really nice high-end casting rods and reels are really starting to catch up with fly fishing. So you can spend as much money as you want. Maybe on the bottom end, you have to spend a little bit more to get into fly fishing, but I think prices have come down and it's not cost prohibitive to get into fly fishing. All right, so I hope that answers your questions. If you have more questions, drop them in the comments. Who knows, maybe I'll make another video. I want to thank everybody for watching this video. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next video. And in the meantime, good luck on the water.